back at our building.
And good morning. Welcome to the WSJM Morning Show video live stream. It's Wednesday, the 13th of November. Can you believe, Thanksgiving is like 2 weeks in a day.
It moves quick.
2 weeks in less than a day.
I feel like you lose track of the concept of time after COVID, too.
Yeah.
It's just flown.
It has.
It's flown.
It's either the post-COVID time willies, or we're just getting older, Arthur.
That could be it, too.
My guest in the studio this morning is Arthur Havlicek. He's the president of the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber of Commerce. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ken. Thank you.
How old is your child now?
She is about 14 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a year and 2 months?
Yeah, already. And now I understand why they say, cherish every moment, time flies, it goes fast. All of those sayings, they are so true.
Yeah.
You just don't understand until it's you.
Yeah. Yeah. I forget what milestone is she walking yet?
She's walking.
Okay.
Starting to form a few words. She's got a 401k.
Okay. Has she driven yet?
Yeah, she's driving. Yep. She's in charge for sure.
Won her first chess match against AI or anything like that?
That's right.
Okay, very good. We'll be talking with Arthur about a whole bunch of stuff this morning. I've been promoting anything and everything because I forget exactly what we agreed that you would talk about, other than what the recent elections mean for the Chamber of Commerce.
Sure.
Also talk about strong towns because we really want to understand a little bit more about that, because some of the preview of what that event is ways that we can address the housing crisis.
Correct.
And so to understand what that is, I want to unpack a little bit about what the housing crisis is, ways that we could address it, and understand a little bit more about strong towns and what the theory is and the think behind that. So we'll talk about those things and more. Anything else you want to talk about?
I think that'll take us right through.
Okay. We'll do it then. All right. It's the WSJM Morning Show. If you have any questions or comments for myself or Arthur during this, please just put them into the chat in our Facebook or YouTube, and we will finish up with the ABC News, get our local news, and then we'll come back and start this interview right here on WSJM.
Out to governors from both parties to be a part of it. Incidents of anti-Semitism jumping sharply. Here's ABC's Lana Moise.
The Anti-Defamation League reports a 300% increase in anti-Semitic incidents in Chicago alone over the last year. Nationwide, more than 10,000 anti-Semitic incidents have been reported since the Hamas attack on Israel last October, an increase of 200%. Cases also spiking overseas.
Especially in Amsterdam after Jewish people were attacked following a recent soccer game. ABC News foreign correspondent James Longman.
There's been a partial state of emergency declared in Amsterdam. So they're hoping that this doesn't, keep going. But every night there's been something. And there is a sense that violence could hit any night.
And several people arrested in anti-Israel protests there over the last few days. KFC going to court over 2 words, original recipe. It is suing another chicken place, Church's Texas Chicken, for using the same phrase. I'm Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Bioptimizer's Black Friday blowout sale is now. For 20 years, Bioptimizers has provided top supplements like Magnesium Breakthrough, the only product with all 7 types of magnesium to support sleep, stress management, hormone balance, and mood. Make your health a priority this holiday season and visit bioptimizers.com/radio and use code RADIO to get a minimum of 10% off and up to $100 in free gifts with purchase. Go to bioptimizers.com/radio and use code RADIO today.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
7:05 is the time. Good morning. Happy Wednesday to you. It's the 13th day of November. I'm Ken Lundberg. It is the WSJM Morning Show. 7:05 is the time, and my guest this morning in studio is Arthur Havlicek. He's the president of the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Arthur. It's good to see you.
Good morning, Ken. Likewise.
How is the coffee?
It's delicious. Breakfast blend.
We just made fresh coffee for him in our little machine out there. It's you got the breakfast blend going on. Is that Paul Newman's breakfast blend or the house breakfast blend?
Paul Newman.
Oh, okay. You went for that. That's the fancy stuff.
Fancy.
Okay, good.
When in Rome.
Well, yeah, exactly. We will be talking with Arthur in a few minutes about some of the issues facing our region, most specifically how the recent elections will affect the Chamber of Commerce and what they're asking for, what they're watching really close in Lansing. We'll also talk a little bit about an event they have upcoming in December, mid-December, where you're bringing in some people to talk about how we can make our towns here stronger. So we'll talk about strong towns, housing crisis in the area, some of the commercial economic things that we should be thinking about. That's coming up in just a couple of minutes here. We have the entire interview. It's going to start here after news on the video live stream on YouTube and Facebook, and then we'll come back to the radio as well throughout the hour. Forecast for today, it's like I said, it's 37 degrees outside. Feels like it's 25.
It does.
Does it feel like 25?
A little bit, yeah.
A little frost on the windshield out there. Maybe we'll get snow soon. Wouldn't that be great?
Hopefully by Christmas.
I saw, Facebook has those wonderful memories that it populates into your thing. I can't remember the year, but I saw a memory recently pop up on this day. This was yesterday. On this day, and there was still like a whiteout, snow whiteout.
Yeah.
It's so pretty.
On Halloween last year, there was a whiteout.
I still don't remember. Yeah. Maybe I was stuffing my face with too much candy or something.
I think so.
That was probably it.
Probably.
Forecast for today is mostly cloudy skies, just a 20% chance of rain later today. That's the late day forecast, a high around 50, southeast winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. But tonight's forecast, it is going to rain. It's going to be cloudy, 100% chance of rain, low around 45 degrees. At 100%, it's no longer a chance. It's just going to rain.
In Michigan, I still feel like that means 50%.
All right, fine.
But bring your umbrella.
Big chance of rain coming up this evening, low around 45 degrees, southeast winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. And the forecast tomorrow, cloudy skies, 60% chance of showers, high around 52, west winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. As we hit Friday and go into the weekend, it's going to be partly sunny with a high around 53 degrees. Some of the news that we're following from the WSJM newsroom this morning. Good news, bad news. As far as drug overdoses go in our area, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is welcoming news that drug overdose deaths went down in the state last year. The department says they decreased by 5.7%, marking further progress in the fight against opioid abuse. However, here in Berrien County, overdose deaths were the same last year as they were the year before. Berrien County Health Officer Guy Miller tells us there was progress on the opioid front.
So although our numbers have not come down yet, the total drug-related deaths involving opioids has decreased. So that is good news.
Miller says opioids accounted for 86% of overdose deaths in Berrien County in 2022, but only 67% in 2023. The rest of the drug overdose deaths involved other substances like alcohol, cocaine, and methamphetamine. As for why opioid deaths were down, Miller says it's the result of harm reduction. That is, more people have learned about overdose blocking drugs like naloxone, and they're keeping doses on hand. He says that has been saving lives.
Narcan or naloxone is that solution that can offer somebody a second life, that can save someone's life, and they can turn around from that point and say, I'm never doing this again. It gives them the option.
Miller says there are 9 locations around Berrien County where anyone can get free doses of naloxone or Narcan, and we have a list of them at our website, WSJM.com. Although Berrien County has not seen an overall drop in overdose deaths, Miller says the news from the state is encouraging, and he expects the trend to eventually reach our area. Since we were talking to our health officer, Guy Miller, we asked about cold and flu season. He says it's time to get your vaccine. He says as we start to get into that respiratory viral season, it is a health benefit to get your COVID booster and flu shots to help reduce the risk of spreading illness.
We know one thing, as temperatures get colder, people head indoors, and we've got some great holidays coming up. Usually when you get a bunch of people together, your risk for a respiratory infectious disease could increase because you never quite know who's carrying a disease or if they get the sniffles.
Miller says getting the vaccines will help protect you and your loved ones from getting severely ill, reducing hospitalization rates for senior citizens as well. And there's a change in the guard in Lincoln Township as 3 key elected officials are moving on. Tuesday's regular meeting of the Lincoln Township Board of Trustees was the last for Clerk Stacy Lore Porter, Supervisor Dick Stauffer, and Trustee Rick Stone, at least in their current roles. The Township Board moved this year to change local government from an elected supervisor model to a township manager model, meaning Ralph Banson is now handling day-to-day administrative functions as manager rather than Stauffer, who has opted to step down. After 20 years as supervisor, Stauffer held the gavel for the last time on Tuesday, and he had this to say to township residents.
Whenever you came into the township, I really looked forward to talking with you. And it was always a challenge to see what the issue might be. And I hope that I had an answer or could get an answer for you.
Stauffer is not going away completely. As of November 20th, he'll just be a regular trustee on the board. Meanwhile, Clerk Stacy Lohr Porter is leaving after being elected Berrien County Clerk. She told us that she's looking forward to the job.
I'm excited for my new adventure. I'm really sad to leave Lincoln Township. Without Lincoln Township, I wouldn't have had the opportunity or the courage to run for county clerk. So I owe everything to Lincoln Township, the Lincoln Township residents, and I'm hoping to keep serving them as the Berrien County Clerk.
Trustees Tuesday approved an agreement with Lohr Porter to remain on as consultant to Banson and the new clerk, Michael Brown, between November 21st and December 20th. She says their biggest task will be assembling their next budget. Stauffer, Lohr Porter, and Stone at the meeting all received plaques for their service, along with applause from residents in attendance. And finally, with Thanksgiving just over 2 weeks away, will Michiganders and shoppers across the country face sticker shock at the grocery store while planning their holiday meals?
Most likely.
Most likely, yes. There's a good chance. Actually, there's a mix of good news and not so good news. According to consumer experts, grocery inflation has eased. I don't know how they say this eased, with prices just rising 1.3% over the last year.
Has inflation eased
No.
or have prices eased?
Yeah, I would say inflation has eased a little bit. Prices still going up.
Prices are what consumers care about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how much are you getting out of your pocketbook? I don't understand this.
All of it these days.
The economists, they have tricky words. However, prices are more than 20%. So they're still 20% higher than they were 4 years ago.
There you go.
4 years ago. David Ortega is a food economist and professor at Michigan State University, and he says you won't have to dig as deep this year for the star of the Thanksgiving menu if you still eat friendly birds like turkey.
Turkey prices, they're expected to be down compared to last year. The industry has been struggling with the bird flu outbreak over the past couple of years, but producers are better prepared now. So you can expect to find turkeys anywhere between 2 to 10% lower in price.
The price increases this holiday season stem from several factors. I found this incredibly curious, including still hearkening back to the 2019 pandemic disruptions, the 2020 stuff, the supply chains, droughts damaging crops, avian flu, and global conflicts. I mean, how are they still blaming supply chain issues from 2020?
That's a great question.
All right, fine. Ortega says you can save money by making a list before shopping and sticking to it. It's that last part that I always have an issue with. Signing up for store loyalty programs so you can get a bunch of direct mail and only buying store brands when possible. All right. So that's how you save money this Thanksgiving.
That's right.
You ready?
Yes.
It's 7:14. It's the WSJM Morning Show. I'm a snarky Ken Lundberg this morning, and we've got a special guest in studio. It's the president of the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber, Arthur Havlicek. Why don't we start the interview, and then we'll go to sports. So I just want to get a brief synopsis for those who might want to come over to the video live stream and talk about it. You have an event coming up in December.
Correct.
December, I think it's December
12th
and 13th, a 2-day event to talk about.
We are bringing in the nationally acclaimed nonprofit Strong Towns to Southwest Michigan. So Strong Towns is a 501c3 organization founded based on certain economic development and community building principles like incremental development, things like eliminating parking minimums and requirements, inclusive zoning and ordinances, pre-approved building plans, basically things to make your community stronger, to increase the supply of housing, and to create a better quality of life for residents. So the founder of Strong Towns is a gentleman named Chuck Marone, a renowned urbanist, best-selling author. He's coming to town both days. He's going to be doing a book presentation for his most recent best-selling book, the first night, and then the next morning, it's a series of workshops that he leads directly on some of those principles.
Okay, and what's the goal here? What are we looking at, and why is now the time to bring a voice like this in?
Well, as everybody knows, housing is one of the number one issues facing Southwest Michigan and the country. And there are so many small things, right? Not macroeconomic, but small actionable steps that we can take here in our region to improve that situation. Usually that starts at least by all singing from the same page of the hymnal. And so the chamber, is we call it leading by convening. So we try to get everybody together to hear directly from an expert and allow there to be this common lexicon and school of thought that we can all move forward in alignment on, and hopefully do what's within our power, and then the market will do the rest.
Okay. Information is power. That event is coming up in December 12th and 13th, and we're going to talk more about that. We're going to unpack all of what Arthur just talked about, including the housing and some of the area challenges that we're faced economically. We'll talk about that in just a moment right here on the video live stream. On the radio, we're going to get to Dave Wolf Sports, and then we're going to also have a little bit more right here on the morning show.
In college basketball, in a game you heard on Super Hit.
I feel like I'm 2 beats off this morning. I don't know why. I just do.
You're on fire.
Am I okay?
And
fuego? Here we go.
And fuego.
All right. Here we go. 7:16. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Let's see. We've got a good morning to you on the video live stream. Earlier last week, we have just faceless people coming up on our comment stream because they had a glitch with Facebook. The company is addressing that, the company that gives our live stream provider. So if I either get your name wrong or I don't mention your name, my apologies. They're still working through that technical difficulty. We're here this morning with Arthur Havlicek. He's the president of the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber of Commerce. And just to remind people, what is the mission of the chamber for Southwest Michigan?
To leverage every available resource within our network for the betterment of our members and all who live and work in Southwest Michigan, which is a way to say we have an expansive network of chamber members, different industries, different businesses, different sizes. And we're very adept at connecting dots, bringing folks together, and basically doing collectively what no one individual organization or company can do alone. And we do that to drive progress in this community.
I love that. And I love the leading by convening. Leading by convening. So you have the event coming up in mid-December. How did Marone get on your radar?
So we've been talking about housing for years now, and a lot of the work we've done has been specifically to help advocate at the local level for more inclusive zoning and ordinance restrictions to basically imbue more flexibility, which helps developers when they come make the numbers work. And one of the resources, I'm an avid reader. I don't get to many books, but I feel like all day, every day I'm reading. One of the places that I frequented the most was Strong Towns, because they talk about a lot of these principles and how, density is okay, not having a ocean of parking spaces that are never filled is okay.
Let's continue talking about that in just a moment, right here on the WSJM Morning Show.
Facing clouds, so most of the afternoon will be mostly cloudy. We are looking at rain showers, but not until tonight. So highs near 50. We'll see rain this evening, continue steady overnight tonight. We'll drop to 45. And then scattered rain showers will be here off and on Thursday with high temperatures at 52. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
It is the WSJM Morning Show. It's 7:19 on your 13th of November. It's a Wednesday, 37 degrees outside, although it's going to feel a lot colder as you get around St. Joe and Benton Harbor. 25 is the feels like, so you may want to bundle up. Our special guest this morning, we're honored to have and privileged to have Arthur Havlicek. He's the president of the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber. And Arthur and I were talking just a moment ago about Strong Towns, and that is an event that's coming up here in Southwest Michigan, December 12th and 13th. And we're asking a little bit more about what that is and why it's necessary at this point. And Arthur, maybe you could just talk a little bit about it. What spurred this is the housing issue.
Housing. It's such a need. And, there's...
Can you, sorry to interrupt, but can you unpack what do you see as the state of housing right now? You say it's a housing crisis. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Essentially, we are millions of units short of what the need is, what the demand is across the country. And we are thousands of units short just here in Southwest Michigan. Because of different market dynamics, the cost to build new homes isn't always there. And when you are able to build, That price point pushes well past most people's definition of affordability. And so we've been talking repeatedly, consistently, constantly about the need to do what's within our power to help bring those prices down and let the market do the rest.
Yeah.
And one of the things that can be done at a local level is changing zoning ordinances, a couple other restrictions to basically imbue more flexibility, increase density, and make it more cost effective for developers to come in, because those zoning and ordinance and permitting, all those things can be up to 40% of the cost of a new build. 40%.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to get rid of all that, but you could get rid of a good chunk of it, and sometimes just make the numbers work by that much.
Yeah. How do you do that? And I guess you start by having a conversation about it, but what's going to be necessary?
So a lot of advocacy and education, but thankfully, because housing has become such a crisis, most commissions, boards, councils, planning commissions, they're kind of moving towards this school of thought anyway. One thing in Bridgman with the housing development there is they put in a PUD ordinance that allowed for far more density, and that helped a developer take a look at that piece of property. Even still, with that flexibility, there needed to be more flexibility. So changing road widths, setbacks, you name it, and the city council fortuitously agreed to a lot of that, which helped make that development possible.
Yeah. What does affordability look like? I mean, you talk to some people, affordability could be a $2,000 a month mortgage. Others, they harken back to the days of, I only paid $425 a month for this apartment.
That's wild to even think about these days. Affordability means different things to different people. A lot of it is tied to, your what percent over AMI you are. I tend to not get into that too much, because we are millions of units short. No matter what we build, it's going to take pressure off of the housing market. And you have some of that is downward pressure. So even those expensive homes that I don't think are, defined as affordable, you might have folks looking to move up out of what is affordable into a home like that, but that home doesn't currently exist. So anything we build right now is really a good thing.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the folks who want to move up into that next tier, if it's not available, if it's not affordable, they're not going to move, and that just starts a ripple effect of people not able to get into the houses they want.
That's right. And so Chuck Marone, the founder of Strong Towns, he recently co-authored a best-selling book called Escaping the Housing Trap. And this book does the best job I've probably ever seen at explaining that housing is shelter. We all know that.
Yep.
But it's also a financial product. We have equity tied up into these things.
Absolutely. It's almost like a savings account.
Our economy is tied up on these things, as we saw infamously in 2008. And so there are tension between those two things that's very difficult to unravel. That's what that book talks about, and that'll be really the core focus of that first night on the 12th at Corewell Health South.
So tell us a little bit. You started to explain how did Marone get on your radar?
So as an avid follower, disciple of Strong Towns, they put out a lot of posts and blogs. They've got podcasts, you name it, every kind of multimedia platform, and I follow all of it, and have just kind of tried to be a sponge with some of their principles. And when he released the Strong Towns book, they came out with an Escaping the Housing Trap tour, a book tour. And so we immediately said, who do we know? Who can we call?
Sign us up.
How do we get on this tour? And thankfully, just a couple of phone calls and we got him.
Nice. Yeah. And so in mid-December, he'll be coming here to foreseeably talk a little bit, not only about his book, but respond to questions from area folks who think we have a complex situation, which we do.
So night one is a book signing. And for those that attend, we actually will be, we have complimentary copies of the book there for everyone to walk away with, a signed copy by Chuck himself. Day two is what I'm probably most excited about, because that is the hands-on workshops. There's 4 or 5 modules on the Strong Towns approach. So tactical urbanism, ending parking minimums and mandates, zoning and ordinance reform, pre-approved building plans. It's going to be really good. It's tailored towards anyone from developers, folks in the construction industry, mortgage lenders, title companies, community partners. I mean, we want a cross section of stakeholders in this room, all hearing the same message and then walking away again in that alignment that we think is necessary to actually make progress.
We're going to talk more about this with Arthur Havlicek. He's the president of Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber, and that event is coming up in December 12th and 13th. How can people get more information?
So you can visit our website, smrchamber.com, go to our events page, and all the information will be right there. It is a $20 cover, but that gets you into both days. It gets you a copy of the book, an audience with Chuck Marone, and on the second day, you also get lunch. So it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, okay. We're going to talk more about that event, what it means, and what you're going to look for as an outcome there in just a few moments. Also talk a little bit more about what you see happening with Lansing and your read from the chamber position. That's coming up right here on the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. We've got news from Bloomberg. The Market Minute is coming up in a couple of minutes. Also, we'll get the latest from ABC and our local WSJM newsroom. On the video live stream, stay tuned. We'll continue this interview right now.
What would you call a free account that helps you see?
So at the end of Chuck Marone's discussion, what are you hoping the developers, the municipal leaders, others, residents of the area, what do you hope they come away with and do?
To me, it's about really giving them that lexicon, but maybe even more simply the tools they need to go back to their respective industries, communities, and explain some of these principles to more folks and have it just permeate across the county. Because if more people are okay with density, we'll probably have more multifamily developments here, which is something we desperately need. If more people are okay with eliminating some parking spots that are required in most developments, we'll have more developments happening here. And so creating a level of comfort and understanding, and then being able to translate that back to where these people have influence, that's really the takeaway. And again, it's the same language. We're not talking the same language right now. So leading by convening, we want to bring everybody together, give them that opportunity, and then go from there.
When you say density, what does that look like? Are you talking about apartment complexes, townhomes, relieving restrictions on, okay, this can only be a single family detached residence, or can it be something different?
It could be anything pretty much other than a single family detached residence over like a third of an acre. America's has suburbanized to the point where that's sort of the norm. When you look in Europe, those subdivisions are not a thing. There's far more density. Some of them are townhomes, cottages. Either way, there's density. And right now, we want density because we also don't want to sprawl into our beautiful and necessary ag land. So we want to pack as much housing in where we can, where there's infrastructure, where there's a more urban feel. That's where people want to be right now. And those that want to have a little more elbow room, like myself, can be on the outskirts.
When you think about it, the density question is an interesting one, because if you have that density, then you do have a lot more benefit on the infrastructure standpoint.
Correct.
Because we talk a lot about, in Berrien County, within the last couple of years, we've been talking about road diets.
Correct.
Because you get control of a road, like talking about out by Lake Michigan College. They were thinking about, okay, we don't need this much road here anymore, because we've gone to the 31 bypass, and it connects directly to 94 and all that stuff.
It's all interconnected, because you think too, we have transportation issues in this county, but if we have more density in some of the downtown areas, you'll have more walkability. A lot of the infrastructure is already laid. And so when you think about the costs for a single development, if you are trying to lay water and sewer and road out into some of the outlying areas where none of that exists,
really
versus
expensive.
doing it where it all exists, I mean, you're bringing the cost down for the development. You're adding density. People who want to live there will move there. It's a good thing.
Okay. We've got more coming up in just a moment. It is the WSJM Morning Show. Thanks for tuning in.
With declines ranging from around 0.1% to nearly 0.9%. Futures were lower this morning. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
All right, it's the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's 7:31 right now on Wednesday, December 13th. Just looking at the temperatures here. We've gone up a degree in St. Joseph. It's 38 degrees now, but the feels like is still 26, and we see that all over Southwest Michigan at this point. 37 degrees in Benton Harbor, 38 in South Haven, 35 in Buchanan. Niles is registering 35 degrees as well. Same for Dowagiac. We'll have a look at our local news in just a moment after this from ABC.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. 2 employees have died following an explosion at a factory in Louisville, Kentucky. The plant partially collapsed in the blast and blew out windows in nearby homes and businesses. Several other people were hurt.
There were a fair amount of burn injuries, a pretty significant amount of blast injuries as well, from the penetrating and blunt injuries from the force of the explosion, as well as some crush injuries where some debris had fallen on the patient.
That's Dr. Jason Smith at the University of Louisville Hospital. The cause of the explosion is still under investigation. President-elect Donald Trump tapping more than a dozen appointees so far to hold key positions in his upcoming administration. They include Elon Musk and former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy to head up a new department focused on eliminating government waste. Secretary of State Antony Blinken addressing NATO leaders in Brussels this morning, saying that the U.S. will continue providing its current level of aid to Ukraine during President Biden's final months in office. This is ABC News.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
It's 7:33. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning. Ken Lundberg here. Some of the news that we're following from the WSJM Newsroom. We'll tell you more about these stories coming up at 8 o'clock. The real estate arm of Harbor Shores has been busy lately planning new housing projects all over the Benton Harbor area. The Harbor Shores Community Redevelopment President Chris Cook telling us in an interview yesterday, a big recent development was the purchase of the former Modern Plastics site, but they're also developing parcels 1 and 2 out by the old water tower site. So we'll tell you more about that and some of the other things that they're thinking about. Nurses with Corewell Health, Southeast Michigan, are voting this week whether or not to unionize. That doesn't affect those nurses that are here in Southwest Michigan. We'll tell you a little bit more about Corewell's position on that. And then also MSU Extension Office in Van Buren County is going to hold a seminar next month to help new local government leaders prepare on how to serve effectively. They'll talk about some of the parliamentary procedure, maybe Robert's Rules of Order. Who knows what's going on? I mean, you think about it, there's a lot to learn when you're going to start governing.
There's an incredible amount to learn, and folks come hopefully as experts in whatever life they were leading prior, but government is a whole different animal.
So, I mean, because once you I mean, you can bring your experience in, but if you don't know how to navigate like the parliamentary procedure, you can miss a lot of opportunities.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, sometimes people take advantage of that as well. We see that in Washington, D.C. quite a bit.
That's right.
All right. It's 7:34. We've got more news to talk about. We'll get sports from Dave Wolf in just a moment after this look at state news.
The Michigan News Network.
I'm Beth Fisher.
All right. And good morning. Thank you for tuning in. It's the WSJM Morning Show. We're continuing the video live stream. I think we're good. Let me make sure this computer thing is unfrozen. Just do that.
I'm just sitting really still.
Yes. Arthur Havlicek is here. He's the president of the Michigan Regional, Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber. And how are you liking the gig? How long have you been president of the chamber? Do some counting.
Going on,
you didn't expect that question.
5 years, 4.5 years.
Has it really?
I started pre-pandemic.
Wow.
About 3 months pre-pandemic.
Like right before.
So I feel like I've been there a short time and a really, 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 really long time, all at the same time.
How's it going? You enjoying the role?
Never better.
Good.
It has been where the main difficulty is we've built something of a rocket ship and it's taken off a little faster than we would like. We're still a very small team.
Yeah.
We want to remain a small team, but we need to grow a little bit capacity wise to be able to handle the amount of requests and cover the footprint that we're responsible for. So it's been a fun challenge. It's not unlike running a business.
I've been really impressed with how you're reaching out to other communities in Southwest Michigan in unique ways. CGAs.
Yes.
What are CGAs for those who don't know?
So CGAs, it's a new model for locally led economic development. CGA stands for Chamber and Growth Alliance. So the foremost example is in Bridgman, where the city of Bridgman and Lake Charter Township generously invest in the Bridgman CGA for economic development services. We're kind of the third leg of that stool, putting in membership dollars and other resources. And then through that efficiency, we're able to actually hire a dedicated director to that footprint who's responsible for all chamber and economic development responsibilities there and is proactive. And when they lose a Rite Aid, this individual can go out and pursue something new so that we don't get, another Dollar General.
Yeah. Yeah, and the what also impresses me about that is it's that ongoing coordination, not just lip service where we meet and we say, yeah, we'll work together. But like you said, if you lose a Rite Aid in an area, maybe a development in that area, maybe you have a couple of different developments in that area, and one of them has to go somewhere else. Well, you don't want them to go outside of Southwest Michigan.
We're able to keep it all in-house, which is a big thing. And probably what I like about this model the best is that it is truly community-led. So every community that has a CGA, Bridgman's established, Stevensville's on the way. There are a couple other communities talking about doing this as well. There's local governance. So it's the local folks driving their own destiny. Yeah. And that's the best part.
Yeah. Because local knows best. All politics are local.
That's right.
Yeah. Speaking of politics, you've spent some time. Hey, good morning, Teresa, on our video live stream. You've been in politics in Lansing.
Yes,
you've served your time.
I've served my time
in Lansing. Yes. What do you make of the last week's elections and what that's going to do with the houses of government in Lansing?
Well, so first I'll say, the report you gave earlier on the prices. I think that tells you everything you need to know about the direction the country went. The cost of living and some of those basic necessities they're at the top of everyone's minds. Yeah. So to me, the election was really no surprise. Yeah. It's going to definitely be a change in direction. Hopefully not too much whiplash. In Lansing, what we are projecting now that there's going to be divided government and not the trifecta of all three, legs of the stool controlled by the Democrats is it's going to be much slower. But slow is not a bad thing because that leaves a lot more time for deliberation. We won't see so much policy being rammed through, and businesses over the last 2 years have sort of been reeling. No matter what industry, they kind of will say it's just been one thing after another. Another common saying is we still haven't caught our breath from COVID. And yet they're hit with new mandate, new restriction, new this, new that. So in Lansing, divided government should slow things down a little bit, which is probably best.
So if you think about what happened when both houses of the legislature were controlled by Democrats with a Democrat governor, an idea could get through in the blink of an eye,
pretty quick,
as you mentioned.
Pretty quick.
And so now that can't happen, but at the same time, any kind of changes or adjustments or updates or new proposals also can't come through.
Correct.
From let's say the Republican-led House.
That's true. It forces bipartisanship. It forces more bipartisanship.
You think that'll actually happen?
Well, so in Lansing, folks
let's lay some money down.
Well, no, that's fine. So if you look at the vast majority of votes in Lansing, probably 90% of the votes, they are all bipartisan.
Okay.
They passed with wide bipartisan support. It's those big key headline grabbing issues that usually force everyone into their respective corners.
Right.
And it's on those issues that we need bipartisanship the most. And so by having to have a deal between a Republican House and a Democrat Senate and a governor who's going to sign it, that brings whatever that legislation is, whatever that policy is, closer to the middle, which is where most people are.
Yeah. So you're optimistic they can work together.
I'm the most pessimistic optimist you'll ever meet.
I like it. Arthur Havlicek, he's the president of the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber. We'll talk more about strong towns. We'll talk a little bit more about what's happening in Lansing and some of the issues that the chamber is watching, and more coming up in just a minute right here on the WSJM Morning Show. Before we do that, though, before I break away to the getting us back on the radio, you've got a new one on the way.
On the way.
So you have
Correct.
one child, 14-month-old,
one out, one in the hopper.
Oh, gotten more news?
No, there's nothing else.
Okay.
The chamber talks a lot about the need to grow our population.
And so
in
you're
this
doing
state.
that personally.
And I'm someone who, if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. I'm doing my part.
That's great. Tell us, you've got another baby on the way.
Yes, another little girl.
Okay, congratulations.
We're bouncing back and forth between two names. I'm not going to say them
out
loud,
ahead.
although it might help.
No, I won't tell anyone.
It might help.
That's great.
But we are thrilled. Our first, Nora, is the most well-behaved, beautiful little kid.
Oh.
She's just perfection.
The other one's coming out of Rebel.
It'll be hard to improve upon what we already have. We'll put it like that. Nora is phenomenal, and she loves little kids. So I think she is going to be thrilled to have a little sister.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
We'll look for more updates. We've got more right here on the WSJM Morning Show. We'll get back to the radio here in a second.
Increasing clouds, so most of the afternoon will be mostly cloudy. We are looking at rain showers, but not until tonight. So highs near 50. We'll see rain this evening, continue steady overnight tonight. We'll drop to 45. And then scattered rain showers will be here off and on Thursday with high temperatures at 52. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
It's the WSJM Morning Show. 7:42 is the time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making the WSJM Morning Show part of your daily routine. And if you ever miss any part of our interviews that we have during the 7 o'clock hour, we've got them happening on the video live stream on Facebook and YouTube. You can just go back to your platform of choice later on in the day. A lot of people do this. And they watch the video archive. It's something, for me, it's something great to keep on while you're making dinner.
I do it all the time.
Do
If
you?
I can't tune in the morning,
Yeah.
I usually will go back and listen
Thank
just
you.
to check up on you and see how you're doing.
Thank you very much.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. We've had some great guests this week. In fact, we were talking yesterday with Chris Cook, Harbor Shores Community Redevelopment, and he talked a lot about a lot of different housing projects that Harbor Shores has planned to fill out their vision. They've had this vision for a number of years now, and they say we're basically 50% there. They've got some more housing ideas coming up in the old water tower site. They're talking about maybe some apartment complexes, or an apartment complex there, maybe some townhomes, and then they're talking about in another area of Harbor Shores, maybe some senior living situations, some townhomes, and that kinds of things. I mean, how does that fare with the housing crisis that you're thinking of in Berrien County? Is that a drop in the bucket? Is that a good start? Is that, well, let's realize it? What are you thinking?
The honest answer is it's probably somewhere in the middle, because when you look at the total number of units that just the Twin Cities are short, even if you were to do, I think, 100% of what Harbor Shores is planning, we're still a couple hundred units short. And that's based on a presentation they gave just a few days ago. And so, I, for one, think what they're doing is fantastic. They've made millions of dollars of investment in the community. Purchasing modern plastics is something that this area has been waiting for a long time. Again, every unit that is added, single family, multifamily, it doesn't matter. It helps. It takes pressure off of the market. Supply and demand. That's what it always comes down to.
Yeah, another key factor of the housing market is can most of the people who work in an area afford to live in the area?
Right.
And I think more and more people are finding, especially in St. Joseph, that's not the case. You can't.
It's increasingly difficult. And, I look around the country, because there's always things or concepts that you can R&D, rip off and duplicate. And we're not the first tourism heavy economy where we're starting to price some of the workers out. So what do places like, Aspen, Colorado, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
some folks have this figured out. We just need to go identify what those solutions are and then all row in the same direction back here.
Okay. And we'll talk about that event that you've got coming up in December, Strong Towns, where you can bring some of those ideas forward and get everyone on the same page. But before that, we were talking on the video live stream a moment ago about some of your views on what's happening in Lansing and what we can expect. Let's get issue specific. What are you looking for from a chamber perspective to see coming from Lansing?
Our number one priority as it stands today are sweeping changes to the current paid sick leave law that is in place and the restoration of the tip credit for restaurants. For listeners, there was a ballot initiative a few years ago. The legislature decided to adopt that ballot initiative so that they could amend that ballot initiative. Right. And when I say watered down some of the language in there, I say that because the language was not written by policy writers, or probably even lawyers or attorneys. And so there are legitimately unworkable provisions in there. The Supreme Court just overturned a unanimous lower court ruling to basically say that the original policy language, the proposal language, is the last legal action because you can't adopt and amend in the same session. It's complicated. Anyway, in February, these rules actually take effect. And if we don't go back and make these provisions workable before the end of this year, we are going to see businesses close, particularly restaurants, which have the double whammy of the elimination of the tip credit and the paid sick leave requirements.
Wow. So what's your hope that they can address that, or that they will address that before 2024 is out?
Actually, I'm optimistic about that one.
Okay.
So bills just dropped. I know that they were waiting until after the election to kind of let the dust settle with folks' names on ballots. Everyone gets a little hinky about putting, firm concepts out there.
Take a stand. Come on. Grow a spine. Let's go.
They're not all spineless, but a lot of them have severe scoliosis. So,
oh dear.
Now, I do think that, with the House changing hands, Republicans have some chips that they can play now, and there's going to essentially be some horse trading. So the labor has come out strongly to keep some of this language as is, but I know that they are willing to trade a few labor priorities in exchange for backing off on the paid sick leave and tip credit changes. And I think on some other Democrat priorities that they want to see get through before they lose control of the House, Republicans will hold back votes from those in exchange for getting this done for business.
So basically what they're saying is we'll help you get this through before the year is out, as long as you give us your solid commitment that you'll do something for us next year.
Well, even this year.
Even this year.
We'll see some of that horse trading this year in lame duck.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Anything else that you're hoping for in the lame duck session?
Yeah. One of the other main things I'll mention is the data center legislation.
Right.
So we've heard a lot about that locally, that we have some great opportunities to land one of those sites and the millions of dollars that come with those sites, but not until the state changes some of their exemptions.
The sales tax exemption. And basically, when you set up a data center, it is using the latest, greatest technology to be the fastest, so we can watch Netflix or whatever else is happening online. But these data farms, they're relying on the newest technology.
Correct.
And if you're thinking about something that's 40 times the size of your biggest pole barn on your property, and fill it with data servers, high-tech stuff, that's really expensive. And when you change it out for the modern stuff, that's really expensive again.
And the simple reality is, as a border community, we have to constantly be looking over the state line at Indiana, which has a much more competitive environment for these data centers to locate.
Yeah, and they are locating there.
And they are locating there. It's almost like that. Those policies matter.
Yeah. So are you hopeful that we'll get that data center legislation through?
I am. I do think it's one of the priorities that they're going to try to push through. So hopefully it doesn't get gummed up with some of the horse trading, but I think it's something that everyone pretty much wants. It's just, these are all, pieces of the chessboard.
We've been told the lame duck session is going to go fast and furious, and basically Democrats are going to try to get through anything and everything that they wanted to get through during the trifecta but didn't. before the Republicans take control of the House? Anything that's on the watch list?
Well, there are numerous provisions that have to do with price controls and the idea to prevent some price gouging, particularly with like supermarkets, which are a notoriously competitive environment. So the goes against every free market principle that the chamber stands for. And so we'd rather not see some of those policies go through. I know some of the labor priorities that they're probably going to push through will be met with mixed support from folks in the business industry. Some of it is good. Some of it will not be good. That's just the reality of it. Whatever gets through, though, will be very difficult for Republicans to change in the following session.
Okay. All right. We're talking with Arthur Havlicek. He's the president of the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber, and we will continue that conversation during our Moody on the Market update. Maybe we'll look forward to what's coming in 2025 right here on the WSJM Morning Show.
Listen to all that cash I saved shopping at my local Big Deal store. I know what you're thinking. Jenny, tell me more. Well,
And we're back on the WSJM Morning Show. What are you doing over there? What do you got there? What's
drinking water?
What's in the thing? Oh, it's water?
Straight vodka.
It looks like water. Tastes like water.
Right.
You ever put anything in your water? I put lemon juice in mine. Pure lemon juice, unadulterated.
I've done that. I've got the liquid IV stuff, which
what's that?
It's like powder electrolytes. It's supposed to give you increase your hydration. It's like drinking 3 waters, which for me,
you know what it is? It's little
mental.
Sponge molecules, and it just like sponges grow in your stomach, and that keeps more water, keeps you hydrated.
Keeps you hydrated. Yeah, I think the trick is there's like enough sodium in there. It just makes you more thirsty, so you just keep drinking more. So
that's
whatever.
a neat trick.
Yeah, they got me.
The speaking of keeping things hydrated, my son and I, Samuel, were at one of the big box home improvement stores recently, and we went to the plant department. And sucker that I am, comic book sucker, I bought him a Venus flytrap.
Yeah.
He loves that thing. He named it Conrad. So it's Conrad the Venus flytrap. And because it's not the time of year where you get house flies. He looked up online and he found that you can feed it grapes, and so he's fed Conrad grapes, and Conrad has eaten the grapes with its.
No kidding.
Yeah, and
those are like the coolest.
It's so
plant.
cool.
I mean, those things are
up at the Botanical Gardens up in Grand Rapids. They have like a whole room of carnivorous plants.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
We went to the butterfly exhibit recently, and I was far more interested in that room.
Did you want to take some of the butterflies into the carnivorous room?
Maybe.
Don't do that.
It's strongly discouraged.
Yeah. All right. We'll get back to concluding our WSJM Morning Show in just a moment. We've got the Moody on the Market update coming up next. We're talking with Arthur Havlicek. Thanks for coming in today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be right back.
Theirs is covered properly, and if something goes wrong, they've got peace of mind of knowing it's going to be taken care of.
IMS, an auto owner's agency in St. Joseph and in Niles.
We're watching over you. IMS Insurance Management Service.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
It's the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's 7:54. It's time for the Moody on the Market update. It's brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owner's insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. The 3 buckets of the Moody on the Market publication are business updates, life in Southwest Michigan and why we love it here, and interesting people you should know. And we think we brought one in today. Arthur Havlicek, president of the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber. Arthur, thank you again for joining us. One of the things that you've been talking about this morning is an event you have coming up in December, mid-December, called Strong Towns. You're bringing in some people to talk about what that means, what that looks like, and how it can address the housing crisis. One of our viewers on the video live stream, Teresa, asked about what about low-income housing? So when you're thinking about a housing crisis, the unavailability of houses or units in a market, what are we doing about availability for low-income housing?
Low-income housing is definitely the majority focus of most folks' efforts, and part of that is because it's frankly the hardest to solve, because the simple cost to build usually exceeds whatever that end price is. If you're going to break even or make money on it, exceeds most people's definition of low income affordability.
Yeah.
There are different things you can do to bring those numbers down, some of which we've talked about, but throughout this county, there are multiple developments in various stages of development that all have a low income component to them. It's something we desperately need in this area, and again, it's stock at all levels of the spectrum.
Okay. Thank you for answering that. And thank you, Teresa, for asking the question. Also, it's thinking about the chamber and thinking about what's happening in Lansing with state lawmakers. And we talked about what you expect in the lame duck session 2024. Going forward to 2025, what are some of the big picture issues that you'd like to see the state government address as far as helping develop a climate for business, positive economic activity in our region and elsewhere?
For our organization, we always talk about competition with Indiana and remaining competitive with Indiana. We don't want a race to the bottom, but we need to take a hard look at some of their priorities, some of their policies, a lot of which have been very, very successful, and what we can do to try to pull our fair share, more than our fair share, on this side of the state line. In Southwest Michigan, we see that firsthand. Lansing's, 2 hours away from seeing what we see every single day. So a competitive environment, it doesn't always mean taxes. A lot of times it means regulation or regulatory relief. And so there's certainly ways to sort of get government out of the way of businesses, allow them to operate a little more effectively and efficiently. Regulation is good, right? But everything in moderation. So those are two very broad principles. Beyond that, I think the other two things I'd mention is a consistent economic development strategy, one that's not necessarily whale chasing. Every now and then you got to compete for a big project, but we're of the opinion that if you have the ecosystem that attracts these projects to begin with, you don't have to shell out hundreds of millions of dollars to try to win a development from another place. You got to get some of those singles and doubles before you can hit that home run. And then last but not least, certainly not least, the state has prioritized population growth over the last couple years.
Right.
That is probably the number one issue facing Michigan. It's the number one issue facing our region. Continued investment and focus on population growth is the number one priority, because without that, none of the other stuff matters.
Yeah, very good points. All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you joining us this morning. Arthur Havlicek, president of the Regional Chamber for Southwest Michigan. And again, remind people, if you're interested in Strong Towns and that event, when is that and where do they find more information?
December 12th and 13th at the Frederick S. Upton Education Center within Corwell Health South. You can visit our website at www.smrchamber.com. Navigate to our events page, and it'll be right there.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate you. Arthur Havlicek, he's the president of Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber, and we'll continue with the WSJM Morning Show. We've got some news coming up from ABC and our local news next.
Get out there and have some fun in a new Toyota truck. Now through December 2nd, get 1.99 APR financing or $2,000 customer cash on a new 2014